Welcome to Economic Forum, where today we are going to be discussing investment, particularly in this era that we're in, the COVID era, and also the new dispensation in our country. We know that the mantra is open for business. So we're going to be looking into all that and see how we are doing as a country, how we are doing as corporates and individuals with regards investment. What type of investment is available or can be pursued? We've invited into the studio Ranga Makwata, who is an investment professional, although we know that at times people do invest on their own without seeking a professional from him. But in today's program, we will learn why it is important to also be interacting with people like him who are investment professionals. If you would like to get in touch with us on this program, Economic Forum, you can do so on the numbers that are flashing on your screen. Ranga, welcome to Economic Forum.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Now, investing in this era, let's define investment very briefly and we see how it is possible in this very difficult era.
Okay, thank you very much. So, you should think of investment as maybe putting aside your financial resources now so that maybe a few years from now or many years down the line, you'll be able to resort to them for your upkeep. So you're trying to make them grow and work for you when you are not able to provide for yourself or when you are least active. I think that's the best way of looking at it.
In fact, I asked you that specific question because nowadays it is very, very difficult to put aside any money for that in future because there is inflation and also the dollarization of the economy. When you get your money, it is best, it's best advice that you utilize it very quickly lest it is swallowed.
Well, so if it is difficult to put aside money today, just imagine how difficult it is when you get to maybe old age and you have not put aside anything and still assuming that all these problems that we have are still there. What are we going to do? So I think people don't invest because they've got excess money. They actually invest because of the reality that one day I may need to resort to these funds and be able to enjoy my retirement without any stress. So much as there is inflation and all these things, I think if anything, they should actually inform us in terms of actually the need for us to invest and probably ask ourselves what kind of instruments can we put our funds today to, so that maybe 10, 20 years from now, you'll be able to get something out of it. And look, if you talk to professionals, they should be able to guide you accordingly. Sometimes it becomes difficult, obviously, as a lay person for you to try and understand how to navigate the treacherous waters of investment. But I mean, that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. Right. We are not trained to advise people when things are good only, but also even in very difficult circumstances, there must be some formula that should actually get you to the objective you want to achieve.
Or maybe you can share some examples before we actually look at the work of these investment professionals. So the examples of the kind of investments that we can look into in this era that we are living in.
All right. I think maybe just to take a step back, before you start investing, you need to ask yourself, why are you doing that? So usually there are two reasons or two aspects of that whole investment game that you need to consider. So there's the aspect to do with the return objective. So you are expecting to get some return at some point. But also you need to think about the risk. So because any kind of investment that you can venture into is risky. So once you've understood your return objectives and also your risk objectives, it becomes easier for a professional now to say, okay, based on what you've just told me, maybe these are your options. Because there's no one-size-fits-all kind of investment assets. So they have to be tailor-made. But broadly speaking, I think investing is something that we have been doing since time immemorial. I think I want to believe back in the day, even before the financial markets were introduced into our community, people would buy cattle or some other form of livestock, and you are growing your head. That was a form of investment because you may start off with a small head, 5, maybe 1 or 2, and then maybe by the time you get to your retirement, you've got a big head running to whether 20, 30, thereabout. So basically, that's what you are doing right now. There are other aspects, mostly on the financial market side. So you can be investing in shares of listed companies. And basically, what you're doing is to take a position on what you think is going to be value to be derived from these businesses as they grow over time. You can also be investing in what are called fixed income instruments. So these are investment instruments that promise to pay you a certain amount of interest per period.
We'll be going into those
Yes.
maybe in much detail
Yes.
earlier on. But from your own observation as Zimbabweans, do you think these are some of the things that we really care about while we are in our working lives, while things are still okay, or it's something that we say, look here, I'll get to it, I'll get to the bridge, when I get there. So what is the general attitude towards investing and investment?
I think it's just a knowledge gap. So I wouldn't expect people to be excited about them if they don't know anything about them. I think what we've tended to know for us has been the issue of pensions. So, when you are working, you are making a contribution to a pension scheme and maybe hoping that by the time you retire, you'll be able to get something out of it. But we are saying, in addition to the pension schemes that you may have available, there is actually an opportunity for you to create your own kind of portfolio. But the problem with the pension scheme is you are part of a bigger group. So the investment strategy, the investment ideas, they are actually focused on the group. They may not fit exactly what you want. So in addition to having a pension scheme in place, it also makes sense then for you to be involved in crafting of a tailor-made kind of portfolio. And I think with a bit more information, I think we are seeing an increasing number of people making some inquiries. Obviously, we have gone through a difficult wave of hyperinflation and value was lost. But I think part of that also can be explained by that knowledge gap that we've spoken about. What do you need to do to safeguard yourself to things like inflation and value loss, exchange currency changes and things like that. And I think that's why it's important that word goes out there, and even investment professionals get to speak to the average man on the street and assure them that yes, you can actually invest and get some value at the end of the planned period.
Okay, Ranga, we'll stop here for the moment. We'll come back to the second segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing investment with investment professional Ranga Makwata. Welcome to the second segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing investments, how to invest, and the work of investment professionals, which will be something that we'll be getting into in much detail, and the types of investment that can be pursued, particularly in this era that we're in, the era of dollarization, the era of inflation, and as Ranga said earlier on, all is not lost. We can still invest even if things are difficult. So Ranga, let's look at you. You are an investment professional. Why would someone come to you for advice and not just take the general advice that has been taken by our fathers and our forefathers, just to look after your cattle, to buy your house, to buy your goats and so forth?
Like any other profession that you know out there, people have to go through sort of a rigorous kind of training, and this is also what we also do. So I think just to then answer your question directly, you need to deal with someone that has got the competency, the technical training, but also someone that adheres to a certain level of ethical codes and also professional standards. Because we're investing actually puts me at a fiduciary responsibility kind of situation. I'm handling money which is not mine, it's yours. So money is tempting, isn't it? Yeah. I think we have seen and heard so many stories about scandals to do with money. It happens even in areas where you stay even a small amount of money. And now I'm managing these big sums of money. So I need to have a certain level of ethics and also a certain level of professional standards guided by a certain code. And I have to do it in a way that demonstrates that I've got competence. So this is what you actually get. And for us, we've been trying to create this a local network of these investment professionals under the IPAS banner, which is part of the CFA Institute, because we want to demonstrate even to a foreign investor that when they come to Zimbabwe and say, yes, we can invest your monies here, they want to say, okay, who are the people who are going to be handling our investments? And if you say we've got a CFA charter holder, they will not ask questions. Why? Because wherever they're coming from, they know that investment professionals need to have this kind of qualification. So that's the same kind of qualification that we hold and represent in this country as well.
But as an ordinary person, I should also have some basic knowledge of investment. Just like when I'm going to a lawyer,
yes.
I need to have some basic knowledge of the law as I approach the lawyer. And the same to an accountant. Do you feel that our curricula, our upbringing is preparing us for that? So that when we deal with you, we deal with different people, we have that appreciation of what it is to invest and how important it is.
Unfortunately, no. So I'm a professional, but I think I got to know about it much later, even after university. But I think there's a lot of work now that's being done. I know
even in our curricula.
Yes. So starting off with at the very apex, the top of the investment industry in Zimbabwe is the Securities and Exchange Commission, who are the regulators, is a statutory body. So what they've been trying to do, actually, one of the roles is investment education. So I know they prepared a very comprehensive booklet on Investment 101, and I know they also have got some outreach programs which they are trying to take even to high school students. And I think for a long time it has been a very technical, more like elitist kind of area. And I think one of the problems was because it wasn't really run as a profession, in the sense like if you were to compare with the medical field or the legal field, where there's the medical professionals and all, we were just operating as individuals in our different pockets. That's why we then thought, okay, let's actually create a profession out of it. And there's peer review in terms of things that we do. If you actually encounter a problem with one of us, if you bring it to the attention of the association and the institute, there are some remedial action that can be taken to try and do with that. So with that structure in place now, it's actually possible for even us as investment professionals. One of the things that we do is advocacy. So I think the last 2-3 years that we've been around, we have actually done some programs with university students across the country. One of them is to teach them the basic aspects of investment analysis, which is critical before you start investing into anything. So we are slowly getting there. I think it might take a bit of time, but the good thing is we have started.
You made reference to being elitist. How are you doing this in your outreach program in order to reach those even in the rural areas who also have to invest in their own environment? Because when we talk about some of these things, we tend to be thinking about the urban areas only.
So I think right now we are just taking advantage of the modern technology which is available. So I want to believe that even the people in the rural areas have got access to maybe social media as well. So there are some skits that are being done, that are being audios circulated on WhatsApp. I know the Securities and Exchange worked on something like that. Also, there are some recordings on Facebook. But I think beyond that, there's actually a need for proper roadshows, where maybe a team can actually take travel to some area, go to Nkai, to Checheche, to Binga, all these faraway places, and try to at least understand what you don't have to change the way they were doing things so much. You just want to go and say, in addition to things that you're doing, you're raising a cattle, you were doing this sort of investment activity, you should also consider maybe financial instruments for the reasons 1, 2, 3. For example, you are just into cattle, you are actually vulnerable to or whether disease outbreak or even droughts and all. Okay. And also just to put into practice this old notion that you can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Well, Ranga, I will stop you there for the time being. That's Ranga Makwata, who is an investment professional, talking to us about the importance of investing and investments. Join us again in the third and final segment. Welcome to the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing investments and investing in this environment of COVID-19, as well as in the new dispensation where government is saying that we are open for business. An investment that takes place in the era of dollarization. And I've got Ranga Makwata here, who is an investment professional, who has just outlined what investment professionals are and how they can be utilized. But let's look at the different types of investment that can be undertaken in this era. A very difficult era, I must say. But you said, look here, anything can be done. Doesn't matter how difficult the era is. You still can invest because there is a future that you'll be preparing for. I stopped you before you proceeded with the different types of investments that can be undertaken.
Okay. Thanks so much. So our professional calling is mostly on the capital markets. So there are so many things that you can do on the capital markets. So I think what comes to mind for most people is buying shares. So investing in shares of listed securities. And because of technology, I think there are so many, few platforms that have come on board. One of them is the ZSC Direct, where you can actually register and start your investment journey online. Like in the comfort of your home, you could actually be buying and selling securities. All that you need to have is to fund your wallet, more like your mobile wallet, but this is like an online wallet that you fund, and you can be able to trade without having to interact with a stockbroker. And there's also an option under the C-Trade where you can actually trade on the phone using the USSD option, more like the SMS option that you use when you are transacting mobile banking. So you can actually, so this one you can use it whether with a smartphone or even just with a feature phone. And then we still have got
How about the security there? Most of these gadgets, as well as these applications that you talk about, at times they can be intercepted and you can lose a lot of money. Okay. Just tell us about how to avert risk.
Yeah, so the security there is good, is adequate. The good thing now is there is no confirmation of a transaction until it has hit either the CSD, which is the Central Security Depository, where you can access the securities. So your funds are not going to be deducted unless confirmation of the trade has already taken place on the CSD. And I think, look, you can't say it's 100% safe, but I think the risk is very, very minimal if you think about it. And also, given the fact that these platforms that are mostly online, they cater for sort of small value kind of trades. If you then want to embark on a big trade, then you have to approach a stockbroker. So by small value, I would say right now you can trade for 1,000 Zimbabwean dollar kind of transactions, maybe all the way to 20,000. But if you start wanting to invest in the magnitude of say 100,000 Zimbabwean dollars, then you need to approach your stockbroker where things can be done on a more sort of secure environment. But I think so far we haven't had any security issues. And also I think these things are always being improved on a day-to-day basis. So
But
I think
Ranga,
they're quite secure. Yeah.
how about those who are coming from outside the country who would like to set up factories and other institutions in Zimbabwe? How do you deal with those? What kind of advice do you give to them or to the locals who want to be working with them?
So I think the first leg of any investment into any country usually is a portfolio investment. But this is like hot money. It can easily come in and easily go. So if you are doing well, your first measure of whether investors are responding to your call for inviting them into your economy, you should see it in terms of the portfolio investors. Over time, you then start seeing some of the portfolio investors actually liquidating their portfolio investments and setting up shop. Yeah. So
setting shop
meaning yes,
establishing companies,
yes, establishing
bringing equipment
exactly.
and so forth. Yeah.
And all things to do with investing on the ground. And I think what is critical is they are coming into the country, they might actually get a cue from how the well-established investors are seeing the country. Because for example, if you come and you want to establish, isn't it good for you to also invest alongside some established local people, institutions? So it could be through our own big institutional investors like NASA, the Old Mutuals and other institutional investors. And I think so us as investment professionals, we also provide value in terms of being able to assess those opportunities and also giving some color in terms of what needs to be done, because they will have a number of questions. Okay, how do I deal with this issue, or issues to do with the currencies, issues to do with being able to repatriate. And I think that's where the likes of ZIDA actually come in. Okay. So this is an area where ZIDA is
and
best.
We work together.
ZIDA is best placed. I would say
you refer people.
Yeah, we are investment professionals. I think when someone has set up shop locally, we then try to encourage them to list on our local exchanges. So it is actually in our best interest as well to have this foreign direct investment come into the country. And as investment professionals, we have got the expertise to help those ones on the portfolio side, but also the ones who want to set up on the foreign direct investment side.
Ranga, if you were to meet a billionaire who wants to invest in Zimbabwe and is not too sure, how would you convince them? Very briefly, as we come to the end of the program, maybe mention some critical points that will convince him to invest in Zimbabwe.
We've got the climate. We've got the soils, and I think we also have got the land. So you come here, establish here. If you've got ideas, you've got a market. I think most of them would have a market in Europe and the US. Come farm here, export, and earn some currency. Also mining as well. I think there's a lot of exploitation of our mineral resources that one can benefit from. Okay. So come different kind of mineral resources that are available that you can mine and be able to sell in the world markets.
Ranga Makwata, it has been a pleasure having you here on the Economic Forum, where you were telling our viewers about investment professionalism, what to invest, what to look out for, and how to go about it. I would like to thank you very much for coming onto the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, that was Ranga Makwata, who is from the Investment Professionals Association, who has been talking about how they work as investment professionals and how their services can be utilized and how Zimbabwe can continue to prosper as an investment destination. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so on the numbers that are flashing on your screen. Until next time, here on Economic Forum, this is John MASUKU.